Sunday Surefire Podcast. It's your host this week, Aaron Downtown Brown. I got the co-host, the one, the only, Ethan Weaver.
Aaron, how we doing?
We're doing well, my friend. We're doing well. We just finished the NFL Combine. How you feeling? How you feeling after those days of I know just that strenuous of just the hour after hour, eyes glued to the TV. I know it's not built for everybody, but I know we're lucky to have you because I know you're usually right on it with the ins and outs from the combine each year.
Yes, a little combine junkie, a degenerate myself here, but no, I came away from the combine very excited for this class. We're gonna get into it in a little bit, but there were there were a lot of risers in my opinion. Not a ton of fallers. I think the combine solidified the 2024 classes as a class where you want to acquire some of these picks. So I was very excited just to for what I saw this past weekend.
No, I agree. I think like what usually gathers most people's attention is the 40, and you're always wondering. I think everybody's usually at the edge of their seat over the 40, which is probably the most exciting part of the combine, in probably my opinion. But hey, we did have the record breaker. We'll talk Xavier Worthy's 4.21 here later on. But that's always exciting when you got a record to be broken, especially at the most exciting event at the combine. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think just getting excited for as dynasty players, who are these guys that we're going to be drafting? Where if you're not a degenerate all year round and know these guys, which no harm, no foul. I mean, that's what this off season part is like. Where even NFL scouts, they're trying to finalize, who, where they're marking people up in their draft board. So that's why this whole process is pretty fun. But I think we have a pretty good plan tonight. We're gonna talk the combine. We're gonna try to briefly talk about each position, just overall. Try to include some risers, fallers we feel over this draft class, and then we'll end the show talking a little bit of strategy. Where if you're a dynasty owner, what moves are you making? Are you sitting on a lot of picks? Do you not have any? Are you sitting on them? Are you trading for them? So I think we'll end pretty smoothly there. But I guess with that being said, we'll jump right in it. So, um, Ethan, let's start off with the running back position. Just this draft class you want to speak on? Just talking combine, I guess maybe even coming into the draft, and then now we just experienced the combine. What does that do to some of the the value with these running backs in this class compared to what we thought a few weeks ago?
Yeah, previously before the combine, this running back draft class was kind of left for dead. I mean, over the past few months, all you heard about how bad this running back class was. There was like rumors and people talking about, hey, there's not going to be a single running back drafted in the first two rounds. So we wouldn't see our RB1 in the class until round three. And I thought the combine did tremendous in terms of the value for the running back group as a whole. I think just looking at the top end running backs in this class, I believe there's a legitimate shot that there's three and potentially maybe four running backs that we could see go into round two. Just to name a few of them, Jalen Wright, which I'll get into further detail later, but Jalen Wright had a hell of a combine. Blake Corum surprised a ton of people, I think, with his um, performance at the combine. I think people viewed Blake Corum as a guy that wasn't very athletic, smaller, just kind of a grinder, a guy that's been in college forever. But I mean, he showed out at the combine. He ran a 4.53 40-yard dash, which was 70th percentile. He came in at 5'8", 205 pounds, which gave him a 31.2 BMI, which over that 30 BMI threshold. So he has a requisite size to carry a workload at the NFL level. And then I was really surprised on his agility score. I mean, he posted in the 94th percentile with a 10.94 agility score, according to Player Profiler. His three cone was 6.82. His 20-yard shuttle was 4.12. So I thought Blake Corum, I think he may have solidified himself as a second round pick, if not an early third round pick. So a guy like Blake was great. And then just to name another couple of guys that I think have a chance to be second round picks. Obviously your guy Trey Benson, who ran a great 40-yard dash. You'll get into him a
Let's
little late.
go.
Yeah. We'll get into him a little later. And then a guy, Marshawn Lloyd from USC. I thought he had a very good combine performance, and there's a chance he can potentially sneak in around two. So just a week ago, even during our mock draft, a lot of these names I just said were late second round picks or not drafted in the top 2 rounds at all in our dynasty superflex rookie mock draft. And just a week later, after the combine, these running backs are getting a lot of buzz. There's a lot of good athletes that we didn't really expect at the top. So overall, the combine I think did a ton for the value of the running back position, and it's going to pay dividends with our rookie picks.
No, I think you hit it on the head with that. I think this is a perfect year in this 24 class where I know I think it was mostly just wide receivers we talked about, but yeah, I think we were talking a little bit before the shows, but yeah, if you got you got a 2 quarterback league, especially tight end premium and whatnot, I think it just makes this draft class that much more exciting where even those late seconds start getting a little bit more appealing than what they once did when you were trying to trade them earlier in the in season. Nobody wanted them, but I think it's so much more fun when they start becoming a little bit more relevant. So well, definitely a good conversation there with the running backs. I guess I'll kind of kick it off. You mentioned my Trey Benson. I'm kind of anxious to just talk him a little bit. He was my riser here. Obviously, I think calling him out last week. I took a big shot in the dark with it. I know we were doing a mock draft, and it's kind of for fun. I had the 110, just trying to figure out a running back who would be the first off the board in a rookie draft. Obviously we talked about last week with Brooks, being up there as a top prospect, but I think I mentioned last week there's a possibility if he can run a sub 4.4, which Benson's still standing over 6 feet tall at the 216. That running the 4.3940, that does open a lot of GM's eyes, and I know that just that frame definitely helps there too. So he was one I really had my eyes on. I was really hoping he posted those nice 40 results, the 152 10-yard, 30. I mean, for running backs with the jumping, the vertical and the broad jump. I mean, I guess and it's more like those for show plays where they attempt to hurdle. I think that's where like most of you hear coaches and them they don't really want their running backs hurdling too much, but it's always fun to see that. But no, I think overall Trey Benson definitely showed his athleticism. Where going back to my shot in the dark, taking him at the 110. I knew, I guess you guys all know me as the parlay all day guy, but taking a little gamble on him last week. I think I did want to just come up with one example where it could be your James Cook possibility, where he was a kind of a running back that was like maybe fourth or fifth on the board, lean into his draft, and then when he was actually taking the first running back in the actual NFL draft, that's when that stock rise. So, not saying that Trey Benson is the first running back off the board, but yeah, I do think that his draft capital raised in both the NFL draft, and then that'll naturally, hopefully, run into our fantasy drafts. But that's my little spiel on Trey Benson. What do you think there?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Trey Benson was a big riser, just for the simple fact when you're 6 feet, 216 pounds, you can run a 4.3940. You're gonna get the attention of NFL GMs, and I think that probably solidified himself as a second round pick. I don't know. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of other podcasts, a lot of information coming in, and it it seems like there is a legit shot that he becomes a second round pick, and at worst, I think he'd be a third round pick. Which, I mean, in today's NFL, third round running back is still really good capital. And yeah, you mentioned Jonathan Brooks. I didn't even mention him. He's another guy that has potential to go in the second round or early third. So, like I said, this running back class definitely got a lot more valuable, and obviously Trey Benson's combine performance is a big reason for that. I've been hearing a lot of comparisons to Brees Hall because Brees Hall was 5'11", 217, and he also ran a 4.39 40. So kind of that similar mold. I'm not saying Trey Benson is going to be Brees Hall. Brees Hall was much more explosive in the vert jump and the broad jump. Benson, I mean, was he still 33 and a half, which isn't bad. And the broad jump of 10'2" is pretty good. Brees Hall was, I believe he had a 40-inch vert and a 10'6" broad. So a little more explosive, but yeah, no, Trey Benson did a lot for his stock. And I think Trey Benson needed to have a solid combine, considering he never really fully, I think, took off like people wanted to see him at Florida State.
I agree with that. And I think just one before we move on with Benson, I think one of the couple of highlights I loved that's where I love like combine throwing in the metrics with tape where I mean Benson makes some nice catches too. I mean there's a couple beautiful plays where he's catching back shoulders, from his quarterback where you don't really see a lot of college running backs catching back shoulder catches at the sideline too. So that just when you throw in the speed, it just kind of excites me where like can they be that explosive? Obviously third down back, but with that size, that just has a potential over a potential all down back role. But enough about Benson. I know, yeah, I'm kind of on my hype train. And I was joking around. He might be my flag plant, but it's pretty early where these type of rookies that who knows what happens from here on out. But definitely fun to talk about. Who do you have for a riser here at the running back position next?
Yeah, you said something key that I kind of want to touch on. You mentioned like a potential to be like a pass catching back or a workhorse back with the requisite size of like a Trey Benson. Trey Benson, he's a guy that obviously can handle a workload on the ground with that size, but he also has the ability to catch passes, and which allows him to have a 3-down skill set in the NFL, which honestly in today's NFL, there's not many running backs that are going to come in the NFL and garner 20 carries. That's not, or 20 touches, I should say. Because those kind of days of the 20-25 consistent touches are kind of done. But what that requisite size and catching ability gives you as a running back, it gives you opportunity to get an opportunity if there is a pass catching role available, like the third down back or the early down grinder role. So if you get drafted to a team, if you have that all inclusive skill set, it just gives you a better opportunity to kind of get on the field and with a bunch of varying roles. So that's why we're kind of looking for that threshold at 210 pounds, and obviously the decent BMI. So these running backs can have the ability to play that three down skill set. But the guy I want to talk about is Jaylen Wright. He came in at 5'11", 210 pounds, the running back out of Tennessee. And I talked about him in the mock draft episode. It was projected to be a top tier athlete, very explosive. I mean, you turn on the tape, he has insane contact balance, and you were hoping that everything you saw on tape correlated to his combine performance, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, he came out there, ran a 4.38 40, 98th percentile. That's his speed score, which obviously brings in his weight was 114.1, which is 95th percentile. And then he was very explosive in the jumps, 38-inch vert and a 11'2" broad jump. So everything that you saw on tape, and everything you thought of Jaylen Wright was confirmed at the NFL Combine. And when you have a guy with his size and that kind of explosion and that kind of speed, I think it's hard for an NFL GM not to pull the trigger potentially in the back end of the second or third round. So I think he gave himself a shot to honestly be the RB1 in this class. I just think he is a guy that can do it all. And he didn't have a ton of receptions in college, but he was right around that threshold that you kind of looking for with the 20 receptions. He had 22 receptions in 22 and 17 and 23. Um, but I think he is a guy that can do it all, and I think he solidified himself as a second, third round pick in the NFL draft, and he's a guy that I'd be excited to get in rookie drafts.
Yeah, I like that call out. I like the conversation there too. It's really like, you know, trying to continue to connect the dots where, we see their combine scores, we see this tape, as we said, but then once the draft happens, you got the draft capital, then you're starting to look at depth chart, and then you compare, who is the projected running back starter, and then you kind of look at their frame or their play style where, are they more of a grinder where, hey, is it Jalen Wright or Trey Benson or somebody like that? Can they kind of fit in year one as that third down role and kind of get those instant rookie reps and snap percentages that you kind of look for? But I think these are two good call outs where then, that's why it's at this time of year I like to keen on this type of conversation where, all right, I'm gonna plug the stuff in the back of my memory because when the draft happens, I'm gonna say, all right, hey, that's a great fit, or yeah, they might get buried down on the depth chart a little bit. But I think Jalen Wright is another good call out here as well. All right, and yeah, I think that kind of sums up a few risers in this category. But before moving on to the wide receiver position group, let's talk about a kind of a faller there. I know you and Kamish both like Bucky Irving. Didn't really show out the way I think we were hoping Bucky to do. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit on Bucky Irving, and if I don't know if I'm stealing your thunder on him being a fall or not, but I'll let you chat a little bit about Bucky.
Bucky Irving coming in at 5'9", 192 pounds. You were hoping to see a more explosive and fast athlete. I wouldn't say his combine performance is a death sentence by any means, but it's definitely not going to help his draft stock, which obviously directly correlates to his stock in dynasty rookie drafts. I mean, if Bucky Irving falls to the fourth round, he's going to fall. He's already projected to be in the second round, but maybe back end second, and who knows? I don't think he gets to the third, but like I said, he didn't do himself any favors to increase his NFL draft stock. He came in, he ran a 4.55 second 40, which for a guy at 192 pounds, we're hoping to see a little faster. But for a running back, a 4.55 is not bad at all. I mean, any running back who runs in the 4.5s, that's more than serviceable in the NFL. But what I didn't like to see paired with it was the lack of explosion. He jumped 29 and a half inches in the vertical and 9'7" in the broad. And that 29 and a half inch vertical, for a guy that looks so like explosive and quick, on tape, you'd think he'd show a little more burst in the combine. So I think overall he's definitely a faller just because he didn't help his draft stock. But like I said, it's not a death sentence. I know we discussed this player before we got on tonight, but I mean, look at Kyren Williams. When he was when he went to the NFL Combine, his athletic testing was absolutely abysmal. He was much worse than Bucky Irving. He ran a 4.65 40-yard dash, which was the 31st percentile for a guy that was 5'9", 194, so very similar size. And his burst was 32 inch vert, 9'8" broad, which was very, very similar. And he just absolutely just bombed the combine for a guy that was pretty good at Notre Dame. So, and then you look what he did last year. I mean, Kyren Williams was a league winner in fantasy football. So the combine isn't the end all be all, but it does. It is we do like these players to check boxes. And what Bucky Irving didn't do, he didn't check the athleticism box. Especially in the burst. When it came to the 40, it's like I said, it's not the end of the world. Hopefully you can improve upon some of these numbers in his pro day, but like I said, he's a guy that didn't check the boxes we were looking for, which is why he's a faller in my eyes.
No, I can definitely understand that. I mean, I guess you're saying he's definitely not hurdling anybody in the NFL. Um,
No, with that 29-inch vert.
no, no, no. But yeah, no, I think that's a good call out. But I mean, that's what makes this fun a little bit, too, where you definitely do have the players that have some successful NFL seasons when they weren't standouts at the combine, and that's where like maybe that's where the scouts really do their homework, right? Like I know maybe as a Patriots fan, like Ramondre Stevenson really didn't jump out at you, but he's a pretty good back, right? So I think there's plenty of backs like that where just depending on the role and how and obviously sometimes it just takes a nice injury, not a nice injury, but a nice situational injury for that player to kind of step into a role for them and to kind of just show everyone what they got. So maybe Bucky is just a good name to also remember to where is that a stash candidate where you can kind of maybe look at the contracts on the team with running backs or like I said, just maybe one injury away from getting a couple more snaps. Maybe that's the type of Bucky you might want to put Bucky in.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a guy that I would still take in the late second round. As you were just saying, all these backs need is an opportunity. I mean, you see it every year. Backs go down all the time, and it's next man up. And some of these guys get opportunities, and they come in, they take advantage of it, and now they're an asset. So, also it's like not only I mean, even if they don't blow up, hey, if the starter goes down, you might have a starter the rest of the way. Which I mean, for a nice running back depth for your fantasy playoff push, that's good as well. That's why it's always nice to have some of these running backs with upside on your bench.
Agreed. So I guess with that being said, let's move on to the wide receiver class. So this kind of like this kind of the main event here with this class here. Obviously we spoke Xavier Worthy at the beginning of the show. It breaking that 40 time the 4.21, definitely exciting there. But what's just your initial thoughts on this class? I know with Neighbors and Harrison, um, not performing at the combine. I know we were kind of saying that it's a good opportunity for some of these other prospects to kind of show out. So, what do you think? You think they did that, or just what's your overall opinion now on this wide receiver class?
I think this wide receiver class is very, very, very deep. And I mentioned before, I mean, your first round picks, your second round picks, even your third round picks, they all gain value based on the performances of these players. You're just there's so many guys that came into the combine and just performed. Obviously, just looking at the top, I mean, Roma Dunze. I mean, he didn't run the fastest 40 in the world, but it was 4.45, I think. Yeah, 4.45. 40 for Roma Dunze. Then he also crushes other drills. And I also like to see that he participated in every single drill. A guy like Roma Dunze is going to be a top 10 NFL draft pick. He could have been like, you know what? I'm going to pull a Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors. I'm not going to do any testing at the NFL Combine. And he said, you know what? Screw that. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to not just run a 40. I mean, he did the three cone. He did the vert jump, the broad, the 20-yard shuttle, which, I mean, it kind of reminds me of a guy like Jamar Chase, who was clearly the wide receiver one in his draft class, could have easily tapped out. And he was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna show the world how athletic I am. And he absolutely murdered every single um, drill. So it was really nice to see a guy like Rumadunze just be like, you know what? I'm going to go out there. I'm going to show out. I'm going to show the NFL what I have, and um, basically take on the spotlight as the number one wide receiver in Indianapolis. But I mean, he crushed, like I said, 4.45 40, 39-inch vert, 10'4" broad jump, 6.88 three cone, which is really good to see under 7. Then a 4.03 shuttle, which is really good as well. So, like I said, he balled out. As you mentioned, Xavier Worthy, 4.21, crazy explosion. I mean, somebody's going to fall in love with him and take him in the first round. Brian Thomas, same thing, 6'3" guy who runs a 4.33 40 with that kind of burst. He might be a top 20 NFL pick. I think a big riser is Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy's teammate, guy who ran a 4.34 which a lot of people didn't really expect, and also showed out in the vert and the broad jump with a 39 and a half, 11'4". So just an insane athlete that it was just, I don't think people were expecting those kind of numbers. And just you can keep just going down the list. Guys like Xavier Legette from South Carolina, big bodied receiver, at 6'1", 221 pounds, runs a 4.39. It just like you can just, like I said, keep going down the list. Ricky Pearsall, Florida receiver. I mean, we didn't even mention him last week in the mock draft, but he's a receiver from Florida. I mean, you just look at his numbers; it was off the charts. 4'4", 140, 42-inch vert, 10'9" broad, 6'6", 3 cone, which is ridiculous. 405 shuttle. So it's this receiver class is very, very legit. It's deep, and I'm very, very excited. Like I said, I can keep naming off names here, but I guess we'll get into your riser or my riser, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, like I think one fun thing I maybe I'm put you on the spot a little bit, but kind of want to back up a little bit on Xavier Worthy. Just as a question, just what do you think here? Where we talk draft capital, I think obviously a name that everyone kind of just instantly thinks about is the previous record holder with Ross, right? John Ross, with holding that 40 record previously. But I think when you look at his NFL career, you don't really there's not a whole lot to show. I mean, he might have a couple decent long highlights, or maybe he might have had one fantasy week was pretty nice, or whatever. But when we talk like hype season, what do you anticipate the Xavier Worthies? I mean, I guess maybe start with like, I mean, let's maybe NFL draft. Like, how much of a hype do you think Xavier Worthy has now in the NFL draft? And then what does that do in his dynasty draft value now?
So just based off the combine, I think it's important to realize that we can't get overly excited about the 4.21. It's awesome that he ran a 4.21, but like what I hear around the space a lot of times is that people like to double count, right? We knew if anybody ever watched Xavier Worthy at Texas, you knew he was fast. So it's like we know he's fast. We knew he was going to come into the combine and run a fast 40. Did we expect record breaking 4.21? No, but but obviously he confirmed he's fast. So to double count, to be like, you know what, Xavier Worthy's a top 10 pick now because he ran a 4.21. It's like, okay, we already knew he was fast. So why is we going to put so much stock into a fast 40-yard dash? I don't think Xavier Worthy. I think Xavier Worthy is a much better prospect than John Ross. Xavier Worthy has a much better route tree and can various speeds a lot better. I don't think he's just a vertical like sprinter. I mean, he's tiny, but there's going to be a GM that falls in love with that speed. I mean, just dial up the Raiders. He's gonna go there. With with the Raiders and always getting fast guys, Darius Haley
Right.
Bay, and I mean they wanted guys that could throw the ball a mile and
Rugs.
run fast. Yeah, Ruggs. But yeah. So Xavier Worthy, he definitely showed out. I mean, not just in the 40, but in the burst drills. But I think it's important to realize, like, hey, let's not double count and just like automatically vault him to wide receiver 1, 2, 3 in the class because he ran a 4.21. I think we have to take a step back and not just fall in love with the 4.21 there.
Agree. Yeah, definitely well said. I mean, I think will some people not listen? I mean, probably. I mean, I think good fantasy drafts, there's going to be some people that kind of reach a little bit, but I guess we'll be anxious to see
Yeah,
kind of what
yeah. He
happens
he
with him.
he he goes to the Chiefs at pick 32. Where are you taking him?
Oh yeah, I'm trading up, man. I'm all in. I'm all in
101,
on my
baby.
yeah. That's right. Yeah, hey man, MVS is gone. I know we're looking for the MVS replacement, so there you go.
Xavier Worthy. Yeah, no, it's gonna
There
be
you go.
it's gonna be fun. There's just so many players that they could vault themselves in a round one of this NFL draft. So it's exciting.
Agree. All right. Well, that's the fun talk with Xavier Worthy. Who do you want to call out next in this wide receiver group, just as a specific riser or faller in this section here?
I'm going to talk about a guy like I know I mentioned AD Mitchell for his counterpart from Texas. I thought he was a big riser, but I want to focus in on Lad McConkey. And he's the wide receiver from Georgia. And I thought he absolutely murdered the combine. People looking at his tape, you knew he had some speed, but I don't think people realized it was sub 4.4 speed. Like, so Lad McConkey, 6 feet, 186. He goes out there, runs a 4.39 40-yard dash, 94th percentile. And he just did everything he had to do at the combine to essentially be a top 40 pick, top 50 pick. There's a lot of rumors out there that they're basically saying he's a guaranteed top 45 draft pick. He was very good in the gauntlet drill on top of um, his his good combine performance in terms of the athletic testing that is. But yeah, that 4.39 was great to see. And it definitely solidified himself as an early second round pick at the worst. He also did very good in the burst. He had 36-inch vert and a 10'4" broad jump. So Lad McConkey, even though he's not, I know the commish is a little down on him a little bit just because he didn't have the production at Georgia. But if he gets top 40 draft capital, I mean, there's some people saying that he might go in the first round, maybe the back end of the first round, which would be, I mean, awesome for our dynasty rookie drafts. But I thought Lad McConkey was great at the combine, and he did everything he needed to do to solidify himself as an early second round pick at the worst.
Yeah, I like that. I like that call out. I think like just looking at him as a prospect for an NFL team, kind of envisioning, his play style. Well, now we know some of those metrics where I agree that 4.39 is definitely nice to see there. Where if he can get utilized in a impressive route tree, maybe even with like an offensive like a known offensively schemed coach, or mind, where I mean, even heck, I know you love your Ayuk and we have Debo over the Niners, but just like teams like that where they can maybe be ran around on the field a little bit and just figure out ways just to get this guy the ball. I think that may fit his play style year one, year two, where he may get early reps on. And even if he is the wide receiver three or play, where if he can move around the field and play inside, outside, and do show that early, he may have a bright future there. So I'm hoping that's how that story plays out there. But I don't know if you want to any comment on that, and I'll talk a faller after that.
Yeah, no, I mean, Lad McConkey, just that performance, and I think where he's going to get drafted in the NFL draft. If you can get a guy like that in the early second round, I don't think there's no chance. I think he falls to the mid second round in rookie drafts anymore if he gets the requisite draft capital. But it's just going to speak to the depth of this class. And I'm just very excited for rookie drafts in a couple months.
Exactly. Yeah. No, me too. One guy I was excited for where I guess we're talking fallers here. A guy I called out last week. So two my guys just kind of bring him back up again where, we had the mock draft and we had him, pre-combine, but this one where I was a little upset and a little for Keon Coleman, right? So my Florida guys, I don't know why I'm fixated on this Florida State team, but but yeah, with Keon Coleman, I think maybe it's just kind of hearing that hype or hearing him mentioned in some of the Chiefs followings that I hear about where kind of you know Coleman was just coming in his 40 at a 4.61, so not the speed you're looking for, but I find it funny even though his 40 was kind of not the 40 we're expecting. He actually had the fastest gauntlet run. It's kind of impressive. I think they clocked him at like 22 miles an hour or something like that on the gauntlet. Just showing like he was in the zone right on that where that's not usually the drill that they really. I don't really think they call out speeds. At least I haven't seen like the speeds too often. But being kind of maybe that's a good you know uh, positive way to looking at his 40 where hey, at least when he's on the field running catching footballs, he's running at a high speed. But one good thing, we did want to see him utilize that size, standing in at 6'3", but his verticals came in at 38 inches. I mean, if you want to compare that, I mean, Garrett Wilson was at 36 inches, so definitely, standing about two inches more than Garrett Wilson. Definitely can get up and catch the football. Um, his broad jump at 10.7. I mean, some of those numbers like they don't really scream at you, but they're impressive. They're impressive. Jumping was which that's really what I kind of wanted to have my eyes on, but really didn't scream out at you for like combine metrics as far as like just having insane measurables. But obviously a guy to keep an eye on. But yeah, I mean, I think he does fall a little bit in value. I know like the Dynasty Pros website had him just like 10 overall ranking. I know in the mock draft I took him at 109. I can't foresee him going that high now, possibly, but who knows with the NFL draft? I mean, maybe with where he ends up, but I may foresee him dropping a little bit in value here. But Keon Coleman was my faller in this wide receiver class.
Yeah, I think Coleman, for all the good that came out of the NFL Combine at the receiver position, Coleman was like one of the few guys that didn't have the greatest combine, and it was, I mean, I don't want to pin it just all in the 40-yard dash, but that 40-yard dash was really a bummer at 4.61. But like you said, I saw that like a 20.36 gauntlet drill for miles per hour for Coleman. It could have been a little higher. That's kind of what I found, but I saw that was the like you said, it was the fast. He did run the fastest of all receivers, and just to compare it to last year, the number one gauntlet. I don't know if you mentioned this, but Puka Nakua was number one last year with a 20.06. So
There
I
you
think
go.
so. Yeah, so I think teams are starting to kind of realize like, hey, like the speed through the gauntlet drill does it does make a lot of sense to pay attention to it because Nakua was number one and Tank Dell was number three. And look at the rookie years they had. And I mean, in the NFL and different schemes and offenses, a lot of it's predicated on spatial awareness, keeping running and keeping your line. Like Puka Nakua and the Rams, they need the receivers to stay on their line, keep their spacing throughout. Because obviously, if you start drifting towards a safety or drifting in, whatever towards linebackers, or you're drifting towards one of your fellow receiver or tight ends routes, you're basically bringing yourself into the defense or allowing a defender to cover two people at once. So it's very important to stay on a line. And I think that gauntlet drill shows NFL GMs and coaching staffs that hey, like this guy can run fast on a line and maintain obviously his spatial awareness and run down that line. So I think Coleman running that fast gauntlet drill is definitely a positive. And he also reached the second fastest time while running a go route amongst wide receivers in the on-field drills with 21.71 miles per hour. So if for a guy that didn't run a fast 40, I think he definitely has some speed. And the thing when it comes to the 40-yard dash, not to kind of harp on it too much, but a lot of it is technique, right? You can, if you don't work on the 40, you don't work on that drive phase coming out of the blocks, right? It's track, right? You need to keep your head down, stay low and drive for that first like 15 basically meters, 10, 15 meters, 10, 15 yards, whatever, down the lane there and drive. And a lot, you can tell if you don't work on it, you're not gonna run, the obviously the fastest 40 you can, but you're also, it's very hard to run a fast 40 if your technique is kind of garbage. And I mean, just when I first started training for the 40-yard dash way back when, coming out of high school, I was just as fast as one of my fellow counterparts that I was training with, but he was working on his technique for months and months and months, and you could tell his burst out of the blocks and the way he started, it was just better than me at that point. In the training, and it makes a huge difference. So that's why I say when it comes to the 40, if these players aren't locked in and trained and ready to go, it can make them look a lot slower than they really are on the field. So just a quick just my thoughts on the 40-yard dash.
No, I love that insight there too. And I know I hear it. I mean, they sometimes do like specials and different things where like training leading up to the NFL combine is pretty intense where like that it could be a case where did you hire a trainer, did you go train with a group of individuals to practice your 40, right? Where yeah, certainly like that's when you're lining up at the line of scrimmage, you're not setting up as a 40, right? It's not like you're running at a 40. So you could definitely tell obviously the track stars, or that's where they got a leg up, where if they were like a dual athlete where they ran track and they're a football player, obviously like that's gonna help them. But I loved your insight there, and I think that's a huge point where that's where I do think where Keong, they may be able to overlook that 40 and that, in retrospect there, especially with that gauntlet drill, that may be a decent fallback there as well. But I guess more to come with it. But I just wanted to call him out specifically, just where I know he was getting a lot of hype, just with they were kind of projecting him to kind of blow up the combine. It didn't really do that, but we'll see if that actually really truly affects the stock or not. But that's who I had. That's who I had there. Do you have anyone else you want to call out here at wide receiver?
Yeah, I just want to touch upon Troy Franklin a little bit. I thought people expected him to come out and just blow the 40-yard dash away, and he really didn't do that. Franklin ran a 4.41 40, which is still pretty good. I mean, it was the 90th percentile at 6'2", 176 pounds, but I think people expected in the 4.3s. He had a pretty good three cone at 6.9, and his 20-yard shuttle was 4.31. With those numbers, his agility score was an 11.21, which was only the 55th percentile. That 20-yard shuttle was a little slow, but explosive vert, 39 inches, 10'4" broad. I just think people thought he was going to run a lot faster, and just based on kind of things that I've been reading up on and looking at his on field drills, he wasn't very good in the gauntlet. He was weaving all over the place, dropping passes, and he struggled to cleanly get around cones. It was inconsistent keeping his balance on deep throws. So he just didn't do a great on field. I mean, if you look at Troy Franklin's gauntlet drill, it wasn't very pretty. I mean, he was weaving like look like 3-4 yards off the line. So definitely something he needs to work on. I mean, probably a little raw, but Troy Franklin was a guy that was probably being mocked. I forget exactly where he went in our rookie draft, but I mean, you probably saw him coming off the board at the 108. And I think that is an afterthought at this point. I don't think Troy Franklin might not even be a first round pick, or maybe late first round, but he needs the requisite draft capital. I just think there's too many receivers kind of balled out. There's just too many talented receivers in this class to kind of not show out. at the combine. I mean, like I said, it wasn't a terrible performance by any means because I mean his burst was very good. His 40-yard dash, it was obviously a 4 for 1 is still cooking. But I think just people expected more. It was more so like the on field drills and just kind of the perception of Troy Franklin after the NFL Combine. I think went down, and I don't think his workout helped his chances of being a first round pick. So obviously, if Troy Franklin falls to the second round, that's clearly going to hurt his dynasty stock.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, and I know like as a Chiefs fan, I'm mentally making my own draft board of just like who's that MVS replacement, as I said. So I know Franklin kind of dropped in my Chiefs draft board where obviously I can't see them getting neighbors or anybody like that. So that's kind of like that range of wide receiver I was kind of looking at. I know Kamish linked him to the Chiefs last week with Franklin, so he's dropping on my draft board, and I just mentioned Keon Coleman, and yeah, maybe like you said, maybe Xavier Worthy's rising on up for my Chiefs players, and but I hate to say it, if some more of the if some of those that range wide receiver drops, that maybe that's just looking better and better for my Gabe Davis free agency signing instead.
Gabe Davis, that's your guy. Like, hey, we talked about this before. If Gabe Davis goes to the Chiefs, you have to buy his jersey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's probably that'll definitely happen. It's like him or Will Fuller, man.
Oh yeah,
That's my
you couldn't stop the Will Fuller love.
that's right. I mean, I think maybe Will Fuller might need to at least like come back and show some of these guys up in the combine. Even being 2 years out of retirement. Maybe he's who they should be training with for some of these prospects.
You brought up Will Fuller. His NFL exit is still the biggest enigma of of almost any player that I've seen come through. He was a good player that just like at a young age that just never got a shot after he got hurt in Miami. I I don't understand it.
I want to see a 30 for 30 done on
we
Will
we might
Fuller.
need to. We might
Yeah.
he hurt his hand and he was out of the league. Remember, he broke his hand or whatever it
Yeah.
was, and it was
Yeah. No, his finger. It's like his finger or
yeah.
something.
He was season-ending IR with a finger injury and never laced him up again.
Right.
Like, what's going on?
Crazy. Crazy stuff. Yeah. I mean, please, ESPN, make a Fuller 30 for 30.
That's your Will Fuller segment for the evening.
There we go. Had to work it in somehow. So I love it. Love it. Talking the 2024 rookies somehow worked
Yeah,
Will Fuller in
now
there.
we're gonna move into
That
now we're gonna move on to Brandon Ayuk.
exactly. Hey, that takes talent. Yeah, it's like whose line is it anyway? There.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's kind of a good. We'll obviously keep monitoring it. I got we got pro days. I think you kind of mentioned it. Some of these guys opted out of a couple workouts and whatnot, but we'll see. We'll see with maybe as pro days are coming up. Do they have a couple eye opening workouts? But I think talking pro days, I think this last draft class we're going to talk about at the quarterback position. That's where I know we've had some eye opening pro days, and that's where maybe more of this one on one work with scouts and interviews and stuff happened too. But let's touch on briefly over the quarterback position here in the 2024 class. What are you thinking there?
Just I mean, just basing off the combine, I think it was nice to see JJ McCarthy out there throwing the football. Obviously, the big name guys outside, obviously JJ McCarthy and Penix and Bo Nix didn't throw. Caleb Williams didn't throw. Jane Daniels didn't throw. Drake May, I don't believe threw. But I think the biggest riser from the quarterbacks was Michael Penix Jr. By all accounts, his medicals came back clean, which is obviously huge for a guy that tore his knee up twice, his shoulder up twice. So to see his medicals come through, and he was great throwing the football. I mean, his arm talent was never questioned, but he threw the ball great. And also, I mean, people make a big deal about it, but hand size. He had 10-inch hands, which I think is like the 90 something in the 90th percentile in that range. So Penix definitely did I think enough to warrant potential back end of the first, early second round pick. So I just thought it was good for him. I know his stock has been kind of going down after that poor performance in the national championship game, but for him to kind of come into the combine, get the clean bill of goods in the medicals, and to kind of show out on the field with his arm talent and things like that, I thought he did very good for himself.
No, I think that's a good call out there where, he's got a lot of that talent. And yeah, maybe national championship, some of the, maybe that those injuries were kind of bugging him a little bit, why some of his throws were off a little bit. But definitely nice to see him, come back, strong at the combine. He's just a good example of a guy, like, just to remember his name as well. You know, do, I don't know if I foresee him being a day one starter, but it might be somebody like, like a Levis or somebody where, like, they're kind of like in that next man up mentality where, I mentioned last week, like, maybe like Seattle, Minnesota, where, there's some teams where maybe their quarterbacks might have like a year left on them or something. It might be like a year two starting, or maybe like a back end of the first season. Like that's where, like, some of those guys, it's nice to nab at a decent value in your fantasy drafts too. So definitely worth the draft capital in those second, if you're in a one QB league, grabbing them in the third round, I think those are solid picks.
Oh, definitely, and especially for super flex drafts. I mean, you get guys like Bo Nix, Penix, and guys like that in the back end of the first, early second round pick. They're probably going to get an opportunity at some point this season, or if not next season. So hey, and if they come in, take advantage of the opportunity, and you got a starting quarterback in the second round, you're feeling pretty good about yourself.
Agree, definitely agree. So definitely will be fun. Um, keep tabs on that. Not really going to talk tight ends a whole lot. I think we kind of joke a little bit. I mean, if your name's not Brock Bowers, I think, there's not a whole lot of attention on you right now for the most part. But, as we keep talking dynasty and off-season stuff, I think, for me, I really zone in a lot more on just draft capital and where I kind of see them in the depth chart. Is that more of like a positional need? Do I see them, could they be, like tight end two on their team year one or something like that? So we'll, obviously they're part of the, their key role too, but I don't think we're going to touch too much on tight ends. I don't know, Ethan, if you have anything there, but otherwise I think we can pretty much wait for the draft for to kind of see where some of these tight ends go.
No, I agree. I think the biggest news for the tight end position was that Brock Bowers came in at, I believe, 243. So he kind of eclipsed that 240-pound threshold. So I think that was big for him. And then the second tight end in this class, Jatavion Sanders, ran a 4.69. But I mean, 4.69 at 6'4", 245 pounds. So a big boy, and it's if you watched him play at Texas, he wasn't a burner. So not 4.69 is not the end of the world for a tight end. I believe that's in the 70th percentile, anyways. For a guy of that size with the speed score according to Player Profiler. So those are pretty much the big two. And it's obviously a massive tier break from Bowers to Sanders, and another tier break from Sanders and anyone else. So that's all we really need to say about the tight ends.
Agreed. I mean, I think we were pretty spoiled with the 20, the 23 class. A lot
Insane.
of, definitely for sure. So, obviously there's probably, I'm thinking there's probably a similar tier break, from Bowers in this 24 from the 23 class. But, you never know, might have those surprises come at us, but definitely we'll wait for for the draft there to see what happens. But that kind of wraps up a little bit of the talk over the combine. I think, just to kind of wrap it up real quick, I think, we were talking, I think it might be just a good opportunity to say, like, hey, if you're a dynasty player right now, let's just talk just a few minutes on strategy where some people you might have like loaded up for this draft class, you're waiting for the 2024 class since 2022, right? Or something like that, where Did you trade all your value away for this, this class, where you just, you know, getting you can't wait for this draft, but or let's talk about it from the other side too, where do you trade away picks at this time of the year, or what kind of confidence do you want to try to take advantage early on before you see some of these players get picked, just knowing what their potential is now, and trading for picks at this time of the season. This is kind of an intriguing part, time of year where if you're savvy dynasty manager, can he take advantage at this time right now? And Ethan, I'll kind of let you chat this part up right now.
Yeah, if you're not degenerates like us, and you don't know, you don't follow the combine, or you're not even paying attention to rookies right now, the savvy dynasty players, the dynasty managers that are paying attention, I think, especially after this combine, understand how valuable these 2024 rookie picks are going to be, especially that top seven is pretty much locked in right now, and potentially a top eight with JJ McCarthy maybe sneaking in there. But right now, you need to pay a king's ransom for the 101 to the 107, especially if the people, the managers have those picks, understand kind of what they have. Right now, with the running back performance and the receiver performances, I mean, any first round pick, I think, is very legit. Your second round picks, as I said, as I alluded to before, skyrocket in value, I think, and even your third round picks. I don't want to obviously put too much stock into the combine, but everything that I saw, there is a huge tier of receivers. The running back position, I think, is a lot better than we thought. And if, I mean, as a dynasty manager, I'm trying to acquire picks immediately right now. I'm holding on to the picks I have because I think they're just going to accrue in value, especially after the NFL draft. After the NFL draft and right before your rookie drafts, that's peak rookie fever. And if you're holding the 106, the 105, even the 108, the 109, that's the time if you want to flip it for a locked and loaded veteran who exactly what the production you're going to get, and you just completely void the risk. I think that's the time to move your picks. But right now, I'm trying to acquire picks, and I'm definitely holding if I have these definitely high end first round picks, and like I said, even the back end ones are starting to become more and more valuable. So that's what I'd be looking to do right now.
I agree with you. I mean, I think this time of year, I mean, you may be getting trade offers in your leagues. I mean, obviously you got to kind of gauge this type of league you're in, and your peers in that league, obviously, right? Or but I think as trade offers come in, or for you're making trade offers, just kind of figure out what you want to do. But yeah, definitely, take advantage of, I do think this 2024 class is kind of more what it's, kind of was originally cracked up to be, where I think now we're seeing more value as we're, talking these players. I think we mentioned even these late seconds in these super flex leagues are going to be exciting. So I think, as you said, like, if you hold a late first, I know I do in one league where I'm kind of anxious now, where before I was kind of like, yeah, I'll trade my late first. It's not that big of a deal. But now I'm kind of getting a little more anxious to see, okay, who's waiting at that 1-9 now? At this point in time, where it gets a little more intriguing, or even trading back. That time where it's like, okay, I got a couple guys in my queue that I think even in the 2-3 I might like. So can I trade back and get a little value and stuff? So definitely a great time of year where you can get that edge on with your league there, and kind of look ahead for this draft. So it's definitely is exciting this time of year to take advantage of that.
100%. Yes, 100%. I think anybody who has rookie picks this year are going to be glad that they held on to them.
Agree. So we'll take that, and I guess this is a good time to even mention, hey, if you got some questions, we are on the Did It app, the DIDIT, just for iPhone users, but it's a great app, as we've name dropped it a few times. We're on there. Other experts are on there too. But they've added a dynasty football category now, and we're actually at the top of the list. We're number one as far as like positive reviews, where that's pretty neat to see. But if you got some of these lingering dynasty questions, definitely tune in to the Did It app. You can get some special FaceTime with us, and come. You can actually even message us first, where you kind of get us prepared for what type of thing you want to ask, and then we'll just take the time to do some screen sharing. So, great time to kind of review that. And yeah, definitely if you're considering some big moves or, big trades, definitely we can talk that out with you there. But I think it's time to wrap it up. With all being said, we got the pro day to be looking forward to. This week was also wrapping up the franchise tag deadline. So we know, most of the big name wide receivers kind of got locked up with Evans and Pittman, and to name a few. But we'll we got the free agency approaching, where that's gonna really shake some things up as we start seeing free agents getting signed and trades starting to happen. So we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. Definitely rookies, but there's a lot of activity in the offseason that's really starting to ramp up here in the next couple weeks. So should be fun. But I guess with that being said, as we always say, peace.